So hi everyone, welcome to another hashtag Ask Jim. So we go live on Facebook every 3 to 4 weeks at New Training, and this is a Q&A with Jim that's in a live format. You can ask Jim anything you like. We've got people walking their way from dinner. We do have some pre-submitted questions here though, but what we prefer, if you come up to the microphone and ask Jim your question. So what we're going to try is read out the names first and see if they come up. If not, we'll read it out. Those who come up to the microphone and ask a question, you'll get one of these prizes here. And it goes in order of the best, and you can pick what you want. We do have Jim's Lawn Lager, so we do have our own beer. We've got some new 500 cases coming of that as well, which people can order. We do have Jim's Monopoly as well, so it is a branded Jim's Monopoly game. We have shirts, we have hats, we have stubby holders, all that jazz. So please make sure.
And some books.
And we do have buyer history, which I'm sure Jim will get on about as well. And there's a hint to ask him about that as the questions as well. So does anyone want to kick us off and ask a question at the microphone with Jim? By all means, mate. Good up. What's your name, sorry? Lindsay. Yeah.
I picked up something on the end of your speech earlier this morning. You mentioned something about getting removed from the public development databases. Is that how you get rid of those pesky phone calls from the easy loans and website developers, or?
Yeah, I'm not sure how they get it normally, but I actually did make a point of contacting everybody who has my phone number and saying take it off, which they will do.
Yeah, okay.
And it's they seem to think it's some kind of a service to give your personal phone number out to marketers and so forth, which I think is hardly what anybody would want. So I just said take it off. Anybody can contact me very easily through the website. You can just email me. Anybody can do that. I just don't want to be phoned by anybody except you.
Good question. There you go. Good on you, Lindsay. Good to start. Anyone else got a question you want to come up and ask Jim? Fantastic.
Equipment with the mowing business, and obviously there's been a lot of development with battery operated and that sort of thing. So what would you feel was a better option, battery or petrol?
Oh, I'd go battery for sure.
Battery.
I was one of the first people to buy a battery-powered mower, which was an AEG, which is an older version. But the ones they've got now, like Makita and Penic and stuff, you can... What's the French one?
Plank, yeah.
Plank,
yeah.
Yeah. They're a lot better. They can actually go all day. Because one of the problems... There's ones like Ego, which are quite good machines, but you have to have multiple batteries.
Yeah.
But the newer ones that are coming out are actually... They'll go for several hours.
Okay.
So they're very... Look, the good things about the battery ones is they're more expensive to start with, but lower maintenance. Electric's always lower maintenance. It's quiet, easy to start. You can just tip it over, which when you do it to a mower, an electric, or people just freak out because we're so used to you never doing that.
Yeah.
Noise is a big factor, because if you're mowing lawns all day, you can wear earmuffs, but it's really uncomfortable and difficult. But these things are quiet. I love them actually. I reckon the battery-powered mower is the future. I just bought myself my first ever new car late last year, which was an electric Volvo, and I love it. It's great. I just go into the garage, I just plug it in. Electric is the way.
Okay.
Go for electric.
Great, thank you.
Absolutely. But try out some gear as well. We do have gear here as well, national people can borrow.
Yeah, have a try of some of the stuff we've got here.
Absolutely.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. If anyone got a question, guys, feel free to come and ask Jim anything you like as well. We've got some more here, though. It'd be good if you could come up and ask him. So we've got one here from... Is there Michael from Mowing? Michael from Mowing? All right, I'll read it out. What does Jim think of Donald Trump? That was his question. I don't mind that one. It's a good one.
I think he's possibly the most dangerous person on the planet alongside Putin. Honestly, he's a nutcase. I say that as somebody who probably, if anything, would steer Republican in my sympathies in the past. But this is a guy who contests a proper election. He lost the election and he denies that he lost it. And he encouraged his supporters to invade Congress. I think he's an incredibly dangerous man. I was alarmed by him from the beginning, and he was worse than I could have imagined. He was an appalling president. I'm not saying I object to everything he did. I do have a lot of sympathy for his supporters. I think a lot of people, especially people who are not university educated, are not well looked after by our current system. There's a growing gap between rich and poor, which we feel in gyms, because we are, like a blue-collar elite, you might say. So we think in the terms. So I have a lot of sympathy for those who supported him, but I think he himself is a morally damaged, dangerous man.
Do you think he'll get back in?
Oh, I hope not. I think DeSantis, the Florida governor, is a far better option if you want to go that way. And I think quite likely with the disaster of the midterms, Basically, most of Trump's candidates, as you know, got lost, even races they should have won, because normally the opposition party wins in the midterms in America. So they did really badly, and it's largely his fault. So I think Republicans are waking up to it.
There we go. If you've got a question, guys, feel free to come up and ask him a question. You can see he's got a passion for politics, so maybe you want to ask something about that, by all means, please do. We had one here from Robert from Mowing. Do you want to come up and ask your question, Robert? No. Is he there?
No.
No, I think he's walking. Get out of the way. That's all right. How much money did he have in his bank when Jim started? From Robert.
I didn't know, about $50. Honestly, I was broke. When I started off mowing full times, I was massively in debt. It's more like a negative. I owed about $35,000. I just had some crappy old equipment. I was running on nothing. It was really, really desperate. Just shows you what a service industry is, how good it is. You can start with nothing and go anywhere.
And then Brady with a follow-up. What made you start mowing lawns, and ties into that?
Well, I needed to eat. I actually used to do it as a student job. That was the way, because to me it was good. It was actually paid pretty well. I mean, compared with a normal student job, I could make a lot. I made so much money that I bought my first house when I was a student, just from mowing lawns. Then I did stupid things and lost it all, blew it all, got deeply into debt. But it was a good student job. It got me outside, which I enjoy. I like gardens, and it was a break from my studies, and it was paid very well. And then when I basically bombed out of my academic career, because I did a PhD in history of all things, and I didn't know how to do anything. So I just mowed lawns for a living. I started with nothing, no business, no nothing, and just built from there.
Do you want to talk about what you leveraged that then into with your book there?
Well, what actually happened was that I did a PhD starting off in history, trying to understand the reason for the rise and fall of civilization. And I came up with a theory which was basically based on biology. And I believe it's revolutionary. I believe it's actually the way the world works, and it has a lot of really powerful implications for society. And what I needed to do was to test it. Now, the trouble was, when you're a historian, you have to be the world's expert in one area of history. And I wasn't even just an expert in one area of history. I was interested in all of history worldwide, and also cross-cultural anthropology and zoology and a lot of other things too. So I was the opposite to a specialist. So what I came to realize is there was no prospect of me getting any kind of academic career. And the only way for me to pursue this was to have enough money to be able to build a research institute to actually test some of the ideas that came out of my history work, you might say. And so I decided to become rich, which I until that moment it never crossed my mind as a valuable thing in life. I had no desire to make money. I was always incredibly close, stingy with money. I still am. The new car last year is my biggest thing I've ever spent.
So it's hard for you to justify that. I remember you tossing and turning for around a year with that.
I hate the idea. Before that, my car was worth 10 grand, which is typical. You know, I've never sold a car. I always give them away, or they just wear them out and take them for the records. So I never had any desire to make money, but then I knew that if I was going to pursue my research, I had to. And then 10 years ago, I just started funding some research at La Trobe University, funding some of the testing, all in rats actually testing some of the ideas, the implications of my theory. And we found some really interesting things. And we published about 15 articles in high-ranking publications, mostly to do with genetics and so forth. And I've now just appointed a new research head. So we're spending several $1 million a year on primary research into epigenetics. But that's the idea. That's what Jim's is for, in effect. It was designed to fund my research. And in fact, if I was to die tomorrow, the actual ownership of Jim's group will go to a family trust, most of which will be used to fund this research. My kids get a bit help with housing, but that's all.
Just to be clear for everyone online, it's not to go penthouses on the Gold Coast or any super yachts or anything like that? No. Cool.
My idea of a luxurious holiday is to go up and spend a day on my farm in a shack that's about 3 metres square and dig in the garden. I mean, that's my recreation. So, I don't have luxurious tastes. My wife has a slightly less Spartan than me, but I don't like it.
Got a couple of them, but if you want to come up and ask a question, guys, please feel free to come to the mic. We've got one online real quickly from Seekers going, can I run two gyms franchised at the same time?
You can, but on the whole, it's not necessarily a particularly good idea because the way our system works, you can run one business. Most divisions, it depends what they are, most divisions have more work than you can handle. So if you want to run a business that's turning over $5 million a year, for example, the only thing that's going to stop you is finding workers. So there's not a particular benefit in doing different divisions. Now, you can get a different division so you can do different services, but you can also do services cross-divisionally as well. So if you're a dog wash person and you want to have a fencing business, all you got is to put yourself down for surplus fencing leads, as long as you can show that you know how to build a fence. So I just mentioned dog wash because you're sitting there. So yeah, you can, but it's very unusual. Simply because the way our system is structured, you don't need to do it to build a very major business. And the biggest earners in gyms are not actually mostly franchisors, they're mostly franchisees, and they usually only have one franchisor.
What we're finding more of those is that the partners are buying franchises. So it could be...
That is true, yeah. Yeah, so you have some... the husband buys a mowing franchise, and then he does so well, the wife goes and buys dog wash or cleaning or something, or laundry.
Absolutely. We've got a couple of questions and comments online before we go to some other ones. So David Gon says, Jim, I was reading an article that stated an electric vehicle produces more than CO2 in its lifetime than a similar-sized petrol vehicle due to the CO2 produced in digging up to get 100 tonne or of processing for one battery. What are your thoughts about that?
Look, they're right to an extent. There is a significant CO2 cost in the construction of a vehicle, which some people ignore. It's not zero. But the studies that I've done show that over the lifetime it's dramatically in favour of electric vehicles. It just takes a while. You can't think that you're saving carbon from the first day, but if you have it for a few years, with time it'll become very, very seriously in the lower carbon. I love it too. It also depends too, another thing that's important is where you get your electricity from. See, one of the things that we've got at home, we've got solar panels on the house and they produce surplus electricity during the day. I only charge my car during the day. And we've got solar panels all over this place, as you've seen. I've made an open offer to my staff, including Joel, that if you want
putting pressure on me to get the most spend on the money at Tesla.
If you've got an electric vehicle, you can come in with a special place that you can park, and you can charge your car during the day from the power from the solar panels, which is basically more than we can use internally. So I think it's overall electric technology is the way to go. I mean, I think some people are extreme. You can't wreck the economy. You can't stop people using oil and gas and everything else overnight because you'll really stuff a lot of people's lives up. But I do think we need to move to low carbon.
Absolutely. Guys, if you've got a question, please feel free to come up to the mic. We've only got two so far in person, so they'll be pick of the prizes, so please come up to the mic and ask Jim anything you like. We've got one here from Ellie, which is, does...
Ellie here?
Ellie here? No. Does gyms assist with franchisees finding staff? Which is a good question. There's a big problem.
We don't right now, but we intend to. It's one of our plans for this year. One of the things we've just developed is we've just got it registered as a registered training organisation. And one of the things we want to do is to actually invite people to come and learn. And then when they come and learn how to do fences or dog washing or horticulture or whatever it is, we look them up. If they're good workers, we introduce them to franchisees who need workers. Because the biggest problem with finding workers is finding good people. So we reckon if we train them in advance and we screen them, and then we go to you and say, hey, you need a worker, and we'll do it through a database, then you've got a very good chance of finding somebody good. The other possibility is they might become franchisees as well. So that's part of it. We're also looking at setting up as an employment, what do you call
agency,
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Employment agency? Or
employment agency, yeah. So we're actually looking at registration, which you need in Victoria for that too. So during this coming year, we hope to be able to do that on scale. Because from our point of view, it's a total win because we have so many unserviced leads that we really want to encourage our franchisees to put on workers. And with Dog Wash, we've got a system where we'll actually provide a trailer and you can put on a worker and they'll pay for the cost of the trailer and then they can earn themselves a franchise. That's just happened in the last few months. So we intend to do a lot more to try and help more of our franchisees from having workers. Because from our point of view, it's a total win. We don't like home service leads. I mean, they're good in a sense because they help to sell franchises, but it's not good for the public. They don't like the fact that we say no all the time. And the other thing too, is to be pretty blunt about it, the more leads you take, the more lead fees you pay. So that's more income for franchisors. But of course, you make more money, far more money, so you're happier. So it's a win-win all the way around.
Absolutely. If you've got a question, guys, feel free to come up to the mic. You go into one of these prizes up the front as you get your pick as well. Ask Jim anything you like. Please interrupt us as well. Got a couple more online real quickly, Jim. From Ryan Walsh, what's Jim's doing to get 90% of calls for mowing in Australia?
What does that mean?
Maybe how you're obtaining so many calls. Why so many people calling Jim's mowing?
90% of calls.
That's what he's saying, yeah.
We don't have anything like 90%. Even in the mowing industry, we're still a tiny fraction of the market. You wouldn't think so, but we are. By far, the most people in the mowing industry are independents, and mowing's our biggest division. Look, there's one simple principle, which I talked about at length this morning. You just try and give great service. And we've just seen that as our service has improved, as our complaints drop, our levels of leads just rise to an incredible degree. And I'm a person who believes in customer service, and I drive it personally. But even I am astonished at the effectiveness of better customer service in driving leads. It's also helpful too because we are a multi-division company. So if somebody uses Jim's antennas and has a good experience, they're far more likely to use Jim's cleaning or Jim's pest control or Jim's dog wash. And that's actually a great strength. And when I look up a client, very frequently, in fact, usually you'll find they've used more than one service. And one of the things we want to do too, and this is the plan for later this year, we want to start rating clients. So a client, for example, who's used multiple services and been a good client is a really, really good client. And we tend to be very... if there's a dispute, put it that way, we probably take their word a lot more strongly when there's any case in doubt. But we'd like to give them privileges. For example, one day we'd like to have a system, and I hope within the next year, whereby you can have like gold clients, and then really, really good franchisees can choose just to take the best clients. So we give an incentive both sides. So a good client is one that tends to accept your quote. We don't want people who want to knock us back on price all the time. Easy to deal with, and obviously, and also we want to pay people who give us response from surveys, which is very helpful. Good or bad. There you
go, come up, jump up. That's it.
Is there any sort of way that we can access these marketing trends to determine which are the best clients or the most high-paying clients or the ones that say yes more often to jobs?
Not yet.
It's a good question, though. You can. Yeah. There's a thing called Helix personas and stuff, which is like what people do, and they have demographics. Like on a map, you have this person's like a blue area and this is a red area. So we have looked at that stuff before, but I don't know how. We
won't do what Uber does. You assess the clients, which is sensible too. Because with us, the thing is we're after most is we want great franchises. We also want the best clients too. If we can put those two groups together, it's reinforcing, because the better the clients are, the happier the franchisees are, and the happier the franchisees better are, the more happy the clients are.
There we go. Good question. Yep.
Hi. Personally, I've been lucky enough or fortunate enough to work with larger family businesses and a few smaller corporations. So I've seen a lot of different management styles, and you seem quite humble for someone who's quite successful in business, which I quite admire. Have you, I guess from where you started to where you are now, have you found that you've had to restructure your management style, like within your team, and how it best works, I guess, to keep the team together? Yes. And make everyone happy?
It's a very hard thing when you start as a mowing contractor and you grow and grow, because at every stage there's an extra challenge. Look, the interesting thing about me is that I'm actually, when you say I'm humble, I've got a good reason to be humble, because I'm not very good at doing most things. So I've no head for finance. I'm not particularly good with people in a general sense. I'm not a good salesman, for example. I'm not a good administrator or manager. I don't have any of those kind of skills. There's only two things that I'm particularly good at. One of them is that I'm extremely innovative. I'm very creative. Even at the age of 70, my mind is always buzzing with new ideas, new ways of doing things. I have that kind of mind, and I'm pretty reasonable on the PR side of things. But a strength of mine too is that I recognise that I'm not particularly good, so I find people who are much better than me. Like Joel, in terms of social media, is 1,000 times better than me. Rocky, as a manager, better than me. In finance, in IT, we've got people who are much, much better than I am. So part of I think humility is probably a good term. It's a very important term, because a lot of people fail because they don't recognise their own shortcomings. And I certainly do. Now, I'm a very unlikely person to succeed. I often look at my career and think, how on earth could I have achieved anything. This guy's a total idiot. You read my book, and you'll understand what I mean. I've made so many stupid mistakes in my life. I've made 10 times more mistakes than most people in their whole lives. But recognising where your failures are and then saying, okay, this was a mistake, how can I improve it? And it's the same with quality franchisees to our independent business or businesses in general. The worst people, the people hardest, are those who don't listen. But if you've got somebody, no matter, they might not be the most brilliant person in the world, they might not be the best looking, they might not be the most plausible, but if they look at their business and say, ask themselves the question, how can I do this better? Then eventually you succeed. And I do believe that's one of my strengths, is that I'm endlessly self-critical, and I'm always saying, what did I do wrong? What mistake did I make? This didn't work out well. What could I have said differently? What should I have done differently? How could I have made that mistake in choosing that person? You know, you can be incredibly poor at doing a lot of things if you have some very basic attitudes, passion for your people, clients, franchisees, staff, passion for what you do, and an endless willingness to just keep on experimenting, doing better, never be satisfied. Nothing is ever good enough. You know, our complaints are a tiny fraction of what they were when we started the franchise system. You know, like they're maybe 10% of what they were. This year, I expect that to go down by at least 50% with better software. And I'm not going to be satisfied then. I'm never going to be satisfied with one franchisee not making good money or one client being unhappy. You can never be good enough.
Good question. Thank you for asking that, sir.
I love the parable of the talents. That's one of my strongest lodestones. You know, what Jesus said about the parable of the talents. You know that I won't go through the story, but the basic idea is that whatever God gives you, whatever talents, whatever ability he gives you, a talent was originally a sum of money, and you're supposed to use that. And it doesn't mean you don't have to be particularly talented or great or brilliant or anything. You just have to use what you've got to the best of your ability.
Yeah, good question. You got a question, guys? Feel free to come up to the mic and ask it. Cool. We've got one here from Bethany, which is a good one. This will get you fired up a bit. Is Bethany here at all? No? I'll read it out for Bethany. Did you win your case against the Victorian government? And if so, how did you celebrate?
No. What happened was that we went to the Victorian government to say, what was your basis? Now, the law says, this was passed by Dan Andrews' government, said that you cannot remove a person's livelihood without good reason. So we've gone to the government and basically said, we want to run a case against you, a test case, so what was the reason you had for shutting down over 100,000 Victorians? What was your reason? Where was your evidence? Their answer is, we didn't have to tell you. That is their answer. We've got incredibly good reason, but we don't have to tell you what it is. So in other words, what the government is basically saying is that we won't shut you down without good reason, but we don't have to tell you what the reason was. So as long as we believe you've had a good reason, we don't have to explain it, which means the law is a complete ass.
Jim doesn't swear, but you nearly swore there, so...
No, that's not ass. Ass is a donkey. I'm not talking about the backside.
Close.
It's pronounced differently.
Close. That's the update, though. Thanks for that one as well.
Well, no, we're still fighting, though.
Yeah.
We're looking at appealing it to the next level up, what do you call it, Supreme Court? The trouble is, VCAT is basically hirelings of the Vic government. We weren't surprised at losing that one, even though the actual answer was completely ridiculous. They give us one reason, one test, one reason at all. Nothing came out, except the basic. They did a whole huge, long spiel of all the reasons why it was good to have some sort of controls on infection, as if anybody could disagree with that. And I don't disagree too. I don't disagree. We've been very supportive of the government in reasonable things, shutting down churches and football grounds and restaurants. That was all fine. Vaccinations we're very much in favour of. We're never against any reasonable system. All we're saying is that if you're going to hurt people, have a reason for it. And there was no reason for what they did. And I'm going to keep on pushing.
Now, will you go all the way to High Court?
We're going to Supreme Court, yeah. We'll keep on appealing it. In actual fact, it's not bad for us too, because every time the case goes to court, there's more publicity, so it doesn't do us any harm.
Yes. Always get you on the Today Show, Jim. You've probably been on there probably, 6 times, I reckon, in the last 12 months?
Yeah. Well, actual fact, strangely enough, look, when I first started this thing, it was very controversial. I got on Channel 7 and they sort of edited me in a way which made me sort of saying I was defying the government, the law, which I wasn't, but that was just because the way they cut it. That caused a terrible ruckus. 2 of my daughters wouldn't speak to me for months. They got so mad. Though, interestingly enough, right now, they say, well, Dad, I guess you were right, or something like that. But at the time, it was very, very bad. So I had this storm of opposition. But as time went on, as he made the point, and people saw this stupidity of somebody being shut down, working by themselves as a loan contractor, and the council gardeners working in 3s and 4s, without masks, in close proximity. People would take photos and show this to me. I think the message got out eventually. And one of the main reasons we did that too is not just because of, it's not a matter of revenge, it's because the next time something like that happens, and this won't be the last time, I tell you, it will not be the last time we get epidemic disease in this country. They will think more carefully, I hope, about the political dangers. Even if you don't give a stuff for the population, if you know there's a political danger in doing things that are unnecessarily savage and harmful, it might give the government pause. And that's what we hope to prove. And that's the biggest point. We're not really after money. We're after making it so that they know there's a cost to doing these things.
And we always do an update online, so follow TikTok.
Because the point is, Daniel Andrews didn't think there was a cost. Because his view is, people who mow lawns and clean and build fences and pool, they're human garbage. They're not going to vote for us. They don't matter. They didn't even think about them. He said, what Andrews said, and I'm sorry to rant about this, but you get me. Somebody
I knew you'd get it going. Yeah.
He said, in this where he overturned his own department's recommendation, he said, you cannot get your houses cleaned or your lawns mowed. Now, he didn't say you can't go out and mow lawns and clean houses for a living, because he wasn't thinking about the people who did that job. They were beneath contempt. What he was thinking about is his well-heeled, elite, inner-city, greenie, woke supporters. That's the ones he cared about. No, seriously. And I think after the fuss I made about it, he probably would think twice before thinking that our people don't matter.
It was so funny. Remember the press conferences when he said that the letters went berserk and stuff, and they asked him directly in the conference, and he would refuse to name your name. Yeah. That was quite funny.
Yeah, he said he never read it. Well, I know he read it, what I wrote, because the Andrews. Look, one thing to say about Daniel Andrews, he is a scumbag. He really is. But he is an incredibly clever politician, and the mere fact that he got re-elected with a clear majority this time. This guy, after the stuff up of the shutdown, after the mess he made of quarantine, which is entirely his fault, his government, total incompetence, with everything he did wrong, to actually get re-elected with a larger majority. I mean, the guy's a political genius.
Yeah.
I don't say that in any anyway.
We don't ask. Yeah, it's all good. Someone did have you watch Jim's opinion of Daniel Andrews, but he pretty got that, so we'll name it up there as well. Cool. Move on to something else as well. So, guys, if you want to come up and ask Jim a question, please feel free to do so as well. All these good prizes at the start here. We got one here as well from Anonymous, which I think is a good one, because we did a lot of stuff last week on this, which is, what's your view on retirement?
I don't believe people retire because they get old. They get old because they retire. I know people in their 50s who are old because they've stopped working, they've lost interest in life. Look, I am 70 years old, and I tell you what, I feel great. I'm full of energy, far too much for people. I am just physically energetic. My mind is spinning with new ideas. I feel I'm just getting started. And I honestly don't think that age itself is something that people shouldn't retire because they get to a certain arbitrary age. That is a stupid idea. People should be looked after by the government because they can't contribute anymore. If you are 35 years old and if you are really in a state where you're physically incapable of working or mentally, then you get looked after. But if you are 75 years old and you are healthy in your mind and your body, then you should work. It's not just best for society, it's best for the individual, it's best for people. In fact, if you go online and you do a survey which asks how long you're going to live, now one of the questions I'll ask you, are you still working? If you say you're still working, your actual life expectancy goes up. My father was in perfect health. He retired at 75 years old. At his own volition, he was dead in 3 months. And I really think there was a connection between those two. I don't think anybody should retire. We've got great guys, wonderful guys, mowing lawns, which is a very physical job, into their 70s and having a great time with it. Maybe not as mowing as many as they did when they were in their 50s. But they're still doing it. It's fantastic. The point of it is, too, the cost of society is becoming unsupportable. And there are so many things we need money for. If we could do things like, sensible things like, for example, what about if we increased teachers' salaries by 50% and then made teaching more competitive and had the best people? That would do more for society than anything you could possibly imagine. Make teaching an elite career. Get somebody to say, hey, I don't want to be a lawyer or a financial broker. I'd rather go into teaching, because that's got a really great career prospect. Because I'm a great teacher, I could do so much for the world. We need fantastic teachers, more than we need people who are completely healthy, just sitting around having a holiday for several decades. It makes no sense. It makes no sense for the individual, and it makes no sense for society, and we've got to stop it.
Yeah, thank you, Anonymous, who asked. That was a good one. Go for it.
Following on to that one, what happens to Jim's when Jim leaves?
What's your name, sir?
Angela?
Angela. Yeah.
Angela, when Jim leaves, I'll be dead. Okay, so don't pussyfoot around it.
What I mean is, obviously, part of what attracted us to buying this franchise, is your passion and your support for the franchisees. Mm-hmm. So what measures have you put in place for that to carry on? I
am very concerned about that aspect. First of all, my life expectancy, as based on Google and everything else, is probably 20, 25 years. So it'll be a while. I'd love to think you'll all be franchisees in that time. Probably not, though. So I'm going to last out most people here, all right? That's for a start. But I would never, ever, ever want Jim's to become a public company. You see the abortions that happen for companies to get taken over by public companies, and they just think money, 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 money. Retail Food Group, what they did, and there was some series of exposures back a few years back in the Sydney Morning Herald and stuff. The stuff they did to franchisees is absolutely appalling. I just recently wrote a letter to the Prime Minister, which I had no response from, really, really pushing the point that you need to do a lot more to protect franchisees, mainly by publicising how, surveying franchises and asking how well they do and then publicising the information. I would never want Jim's to become a public company, which is focused on the bottom line. The next chord is theirs. What happens is the Jim's is actually owned by a family trust structure. I've got to get the if I die, because I intend to keep on living forever if I possibly can. I'm reading a book on immortality right now, and if I can live for another 1,000 years, then I will, all right? I'm just making that clear. But if I happen to die, then the control goes to a family trust, which is controlled by my children. The money that it makes mainly goes to support the research foundation, and there's a little bit of help for my children with housing and stuff. Not much, a few $100,000 each, that kind of thing. Basically, there's a structure in place that... And I'm grooming certain of my children, my son-in-laws, those kind of people to possibly take over. Looking for people who've also got the same sense of ethics, I hope. So I want somebody competent and ethical.
So you have confidence that it will carry on in this manner?
I wish I could know that. Honestly, I do. It worries me. I hate the thought, and the more profitable a company becomes, the more dangerous the idea is that somebody can come in and say, let's screw it for money. And that happens so often. There's so many companies being destroyed by people who are just greedy for money. Well, if anyone's seen Futurama, we do have those jars ready to go. So there's a few methods we can do. We've got enough content with Jim as well. So there's a lot of software coming now, Jimmy, where you can upload all your content into like an AI program. It can spit you out pretty much. So we've got enough with you, which we can do. So later on the road will be happening. Cool. Thanks for that question, Angela. That was really good. It is. Yeah. Anyone else got a question you want to come up and ask Jim, please feel free to do so. We'll keep chipping away with them here. So one from Sarah from Jim's Cleaning. Yeah. Yeah, laundry.
No, come through.
Yep.
Come through. It's a very important question. No, it's a bit of fun. But pineapple on pizzas, yes or no?
Oh, yuck. You've got to be joking. It's disgusting.
Really? Oh, it says a lot about you, Jim.
What does it say about him? You can tell him why he's here. It's fine.
I don't know how anyone cannot like it, but that's all right. Each to their own.
Pineapple and pizza is pizza is yum. I love pizza.
Sweetness. No, okay. All right. Pizza, we'll have to go half-half on our pizza.
A really nice mushroom pizza or eggplant. I love Mediterranean pizzas. And pizza is one of the greatest gifts God gave to
Yes.
food. I mean, really, it's fantastic stuff. But don't put pineapple on it. Come on.
Because you're Italian? Are
What?
you Italian?
No.
That's what an Italian would say.
They don't like pizza. They don't like pineapple on pizza.
No, they hate it.
Sensible people, the Italians, I thoroughly approve of them. Yes.
crime.
That's an abortion. You're right.
Oh, jeez.
So I'm Sarah from cleaning, and I just wanted to know how many children you have and grandchildren, and if the way that you've run your business has positively influenced them.
Okay, well, how many children I've got depends a bit on how you measure them. If you're talking about children that I raised, helped to raise, got 10. If you're talking about biological children, I've got 16 because I've been a sperm donor. So from that point of view, how many grandchildren? Well, as far as I know, only 2 so far. So my children I'm a very good breeder. My children are not quite so good at that kind of thing. In fact, I've just met my oldest grandchild just this last couple of months, and it was wonderful. Little boy, Ian, they live in York, unfortunately, but they were here, and he's just the most gorgeous kid imaginable. I miss him like hell. I'm falling in love with that little kid. He's so good, and I love him. And there's another one, Joshua, who's about 4 months old too, which I'm going to see in another few days again. So, children are the best. I love my kids. I really do. How many children have you got?
3 boys.
Oh, good on you. It's good to have more than 2.
Yes.
It's really weird. I like what Peter Costello said. You know, one for Brad, one for Mum, one for the country. You're a true Australian. But when Peter Costello came, he was a guest here at a fundraiser. And I said, well, Peter, I did one better. 1 for Mum, 1 for Dad, 8 for the country.
Well done.
Thanks for that, Sir. We did a few meme comps, and someone did do actually a meme division like Jim's Sperm Bank. I didn't know it was real. So someone actually did it. There you go. There you go. You learned something new.
Being a sperm donor is great, actually. I know people have shown. I don't mind. I've met one of the kids that came from the nation. He's a beautiful little boy. He really was just gorgeous. I loved him dearly. Unfortunately, my wife objected to me having too much to do with him, so I couldn't keep contact. But I'd always be happy to. If any of my biological children were around, I'd love to talk to them and see them and see their kids. I think kids are the best.
Yeah.
I can't see. To me, a life is something that's lived for a purpose. And amassing money and having more luxurious possessions just doesn't rate anything. It's what you achieve. It's things like research. It's things like Jim's Group. Like nearly 5,000 franchisees, most of them successful. That's a great achievement. And my children are an achievement. My children are basically turning out pretty well so far. And I love them and I'm proud of them. And now I've got grandchildren. I think life has got to mean something.
Got one with,
and the biggest trouble, sorry, I know I keep ranting on, but
you're on a fire tonight, I can see.
People really, they focus on the wrong things. Amassing money and spending money on big, expensive things like cars and houses and luxurious trips and clothes and jewellery and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't bring happiness, and the research shows that it doesn't. If you really want to be happy, if you've got money, the best thing to do with money is to give it away. You know that? That's what they've found out. Give money away to something you're involved with. That's what scientists have found to be the best way to spend money to achieve happiness. And it's far better to spend, if you are spending on yourself, you're better spending on experiences and less on stuff. Yeah. I'm really interested in the science of happiness and what you can do with your life and how you can live a great life. And I do have a great life. I'm a very happy man, very fortunate man. Wonderful, wonderful wife. Amazingly wonderful wife. 21. I mean, I've been divorced 3 times, but I hit the jackpot with Lee. So 21 years, we had a wonderful honeymoon because our youngest son actually went to stay with his sisters. So we had a honeymoon for a week, and that was absolutely amazing. And now, I don't want to say what we got up to, but you wouldn't want to know. We had so much fun. So I'm a very lucky man. I've got great children.
Yeah.
What's that?
I won't say what I said. It's all right. I said you're practising your skills, your breeding skills.
Go away,
You said it's all right. All right, let's move on. All right, so we've got one here from Luke Holden. How long does it take for a franchisee to become a franchisor?
There's no time, actually. I think Sharon took about 5 months when she started her cleaning franchise to become a cleaning franchisor. Become a divisional, it took a few more years before I offered the dog wash. So, not long. Look, it's open, actually. Look, a person who wants to become a franchisor, it's not a matter of time. It's a case of who you are. For example, we're going to ask certain questions. First of all, we're going to look at your star rating. If you've got a poor star rating, forget it. There's no possible way you'll become a franchisor. but most franchisees have pretty good star ratings. We look at your income. We want somebody who's making good money. Now, the average income for a Jim's franchise these days, turnover, is a bit under $3,000 a week, about $2,900. So we'd like to see you making substantially in excess of that. You've got to show that you can run a successful business by yourself successfully. And then we look at your ethics and anything to do with the way you've helped other people. Like being a trainer is very, very helpful. It's very positive. The kind of person who enjoys helping others. We look for those kinds of characteristics. But honestly, it's quite easy. I mean, you can start a new division, and the cost is actually comparable to a franchise. It's really very simple. And we're always looking for great people. And most of the people who succeeded, the top people in Jim started as franchisees, including many in the office too. So it's not. We just look for someone with the right character. That's all. And there are amazing opportunities for those who have it.
If you could go back, what's one piece of advice you'd love to give past Jim when you were starting out?
I didn't understand how important relationships were. I thought franchising was giving people work and giving them basic advice. What I didn't understand is that it's the emotional support that matters so much. It's ringing franchises regularly. It's running meetings regularly and how often you run them. That is the biggest, single hardest thing to learn. So that is one thing. Having said that, I would never, ever change the past to anything more than 13 years ago. I would never change anything in my past. You know why? Because when my youngest son was conceived. So I'd never change the past in a way that would lose me any of my children. But having said that, also I have a habit of just being reckless. I just jump into things without thinking about it. I really, really should avoid that. Younger Jim, please don't do that again. I've done that too many times. That's one reason I get such a mess at times in the past. But there's probably the two things. Whether younger Jim would listen, I don't know. Maybe he would.
He definitely wouldn't listen. He definitely wouldn't.
Look, there's this old freaky old guy with white hair and not much of it coming back and trying to give me advice. Oh, get away from me, old guy.
Got some more questions online real quickly, Jim. So Alex has gone, is your book, Epigenetics and Character, available as an audiobook? I don't think it is.
I don't think it is, actually.
No, but it's...
No, there's an earlier version of that. The previous
audio
one.
version is, does, yeah.
The audio version of the previous version of that is, which is 90% the same.
But you can get that for free download from buyerhistory.org, so please do if you're interested. Got a couple of related questions real quickly as well. So Brendan's gone here, Jim, have you ever looked into getting to the towing and panel beating market? And then another person's gone, how many customers do I need until I can franchise my business for Jim?
Okay, we would go into anything. It's going into a division isn't. There are certain questions. The first question is, can a reasonable operator make at least $60 an hour? If they can't do that, we wouldn't consider it. We're trying to find a division that has fairly good scale, which panel beating does. The main thing we need, though, to any new division is the right person with the right industry experience. Now, having said that, we look at almost anything. There are certain things we wouldn't do, like anything to do with morally questionable stuff. Put it that way. We would not get into. Jim's call girls, for example, might be a bit of a no-no. All right. Even though your hourly rate's probably pretty good in that one, but we just wouldn't touch it. So, what was the other question?
the other one. We get that one suggested quite a bit online, so it's good to hear.
It does come through.
We do. About the panel beating.
If you took out the moral aspect, it probably would have a lot of sense to it. But no.
How many customers do I need until I can franchise for Jim? So if I've got an existing business you want to franchise, well, how many customers do you need? What position should you be in?
Oh, I just need a good business model. I just need to show me that you're going to make good money out of it. Show me that your hourly rate's there. Show me your marketing. What we can do is turbo boost. We can give a really big boost to whatever you do. And that's typically what happens. So somebody's got a business, it's going along okay, and you put the Jim's brand and our marketing behind it, and then all the stuff we can do for the social media, and it explodes.
There you go.
That's what happens. I mean, it doesn't even have to be any customers at all. You might have a background in the industry. For example, I don't know if Paul Comerford, when he came to us with building inspections, I don't know he actually had a business at all.
No, he didn't.
in that area.
He came to you it was on a napkin, I think the idea actually came with you.
Yeah, he just, the idea, and he seemed like a good guy. He knew the industry, he had experience in the industry, and he thought it was a good notion. Well, that's now the biggest building inspections company by far in the whole country. This guy came to us with a napkin, no business. But Paul was a good guy, so other cases too, like Bill Kovanoglu too. Now, when he started laundry, he didn't have a laundry business. He was a successful cleaning franchisor. Very good franchisor, very successful, great support, great growth statistics. And he said, I'd like to do Jim's laundry. This is my idea for it. We thought, great guy, great concept. Regular clients, appeals to women and stuff. There were a lot of big advantages to it. So we said, go ahead. So less than 2 years later, they've got 60 franchisees. It's going great. So no, you don't have to have any kind of business. You just have to be the right person with the right experience.
Just to be clear, it was his wife who came up with the idea, not Bill. Bill takes all the credit from you. I'll tell you, it was his wife, Arzu, who comes up with all the credit, and she gets some really nice gifts out of it. Every time there's a sale, hopefully Bill looks after her. So it was his wife. Good question.
When you first started with $24, what sort of goals did you set yourself and did you achieve them? Do you still have goals for yourself and what sort of goals did you set yourself?
My immediate goal was to pay the rent and also these loans that were guaranteed by my parents. So that was the immediate thing. I honestly, my goal was to fund biohistory. The interesting thing about that is I didn't think my law and my business would do it. I didn't have I couldn't envisage how it could possibly work. So to me, it was just something to do until I could find it. I actually tried a few different things. I tried a mower shop, a computer shop, tried to get a holiday resort going. That was really stupid. I was in Amway at one time. I mean, you wouldn't believe it. I tried that. So I've tried lots of different things, and it's just this mowing business that I had from the beginning turned out to be surprisingly effective. But even when I started Jim's franchise, somebody asked me, as I say in the book actually, somebody asked me how many franchisees I might have one day, and I said maybe if it's really successful, one day I could have 100. And it just surprised me, honestly. It amazed me that it did so well.
Good question. Thank you for that one. I've got one here from Andrew from Laundry. Where's Andrew from Laundry? Come up and ask it. Something a bit different.
So, Laundry here tonight to ask all the hard-hitting questions. I've got two questions, if that's okay.
Yeah. One
question is, who would win in a fight? Batman, Superman, or Iron Man?
That's a stupid question. Superman would win, of course. Unless Iron Man had kryptonite. I mean,
Iron Man's got toys.
Don't you... What?
Iron Man's got
You can
toys.
argue your case. Argue your case with him.
Yeah. Batman, utility belt.
Nah, Superman.
Okay, Superman. All right.
Batman's just a human being. Much more interesting, actually. My favourite superhero is actually Spider-Man. I reckon Spider-Man.
Left him out.
Tobey Maguire is good. Not particularly invulnerable, but morally more interesting.
Yeah, I'm
And
not a big
better
fan of
villains
Spider-Man.
too.
Anyway, second question is, amongst all your successes, obviously been very successful, did you really feel like you made it when you started getting knockoff merchandise made and sold in Bali? Is that when you hit the pinnacle of Jim's?
Listen, my friend, I have not hit the pinnacle. I haven't even started.
Nice.
I am just on the footsteps of the mountain as to how far we're going to go. You will see amazing things over the next year or two going on in Jim's.
Look forward to
You'll
seeing
be here
more
back
in
when
Bali.
you said you talked to Jim back in January 2023, and I talked about Jim, and he was only this little piddling little businessman. He wasn't anything. Look what happened to him now. You have no idea what's going to happen. So pinnacle, nothing. We're just getting started.
Nice.
I honestly feel that. I reckon the future is so exciting. It's a very, very fun place to be.
And what shirts were for sale? Out of interest, what meme shirts?
Probably can't say them online. Yeah, but your face was all over Bali, so there you go.
What do you think of
question, sort of, or it's a good lead-in. You've said regarding the failure rate that a percentage of that failure rate is people who decide they no longer need gyms and go off on their own.
Yep.
Do you have the reverse, or like I thought that may come with a recession, but do you have the reverse where people have their own mowing business, for example, and they're just not getting there and they think, bugger it, I'm going to join gyms?
Very rarely, actually.
Right.
Very rarely. People get their own sense of their identity and they don't want to join us. Those who do tend to be exceptionally good. They tend to shine. Glenn Camilleri, who runs Easy Rental, he was an independent. He spent, I think he had a business focusing on body corporates, and I think he worked for 6 months and he was out about $600 a week. This is back in the 90s. He came with us, his first week he did $1,500. So it sort of doubled that in modern terms. So he was just phenomenally good. And later on, after he left Jim's, he actually went independent for a while, found it was really hard, came back to us, and then later on started Easy Rental, which rents machinery. So it's when you do get somebody who's been an independent and they come across, they tend to be very, very good. They're what we'd regard as gold franchisees, the kind of people who are going to become franchisors and employ people and so forth. They tend to be very good because it's so hard. I really admire and respect anybody who achieves it. But unfortunately, relatively few do that. We're getting a few through a system called Jim's Plus. Bizza. Yep. Where we actually have surplus work that we sell to people in a very carefully curated way. And quite often those people come across when they start to get... Because the quality of these is so good. If you're used to something like High Pages, which is really dirt, horrible leads, really cheap, lots of people competing for it. You get a Jim's lead, which is just you, but look after the customer really well. They love it. So they tend to come through that avenue. So we do get a few. And they do tend to do pretty well. We'd love more.
Yes.
And what's your name, sorry?
Can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
For risk of firing you up again, the government appearing to want to slow down our use of cash and turn things digital, what sort of effect do you think that would have on a business such as this going forward?
Look, I believe Jesus said, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar, to God the things that are God's. I think we should pay our taxes. Now, we know quite well that a lot of franchisees don't, but we don't encourage it, we don't abet it, we don't approve of it. We're not going to get involved, we're not going to try and audit your books, but we think people should pay proper tax. They should pay GST and proper income tax and so forth. So I actually think that going away from the cash economy is good, because the tax burden should be fairly distributed. And most of franchisees make pretty good money, so I think that we can afford to pay proper taxes.
What was your name, sorry, for the...
Susie.
Susie, no worries. Good question, Susie. Got one real quickly online, Jim, as well. Some Aaron's gone, how do we go about buying a split?
I'll just ask the franchisor how to... And they'll tell you what's available. The way the system works is if you approach a franchisor about a business, the franchisor must tell you about any split or resale available in that area of interest. They must. If they don't do that, that's a very severe breach of contract. It's against the manual. So basically all you have to do is to ask your franchisor, say, I'm interested in a split. What have you got for me? Now, splits tend to be a very good idea. Not so much because of the fact that there's more work, but because they tend to get a business that's already well established. And if you do it well, you can always take some more and you can do a split yourself down the track quite quickly. So yeah, just ask.
We've got another one real quickly for you online. Will Jim ever do an Undercover Boss episode? Have you seen the show Undercover Boss?
Yeah, I think I heard about it.
Yeah. Will you ever do one?
No.
I think you're too well known. You couldn't do one with the franchisee. They know who you are.
I don't think they...
It'd be very hard to put makeup on you to do it, I agree. Yeah.
Most CEOs are fairly not very well known by their franchisees. I'm a very public figure, I think. I mean, you couldn't forget me. How many people are as ugly as this? I mean, come on, be fair.
It's very, very true.
I've got to warn you, if anybody hasn't had their picture taken, come and get it, but I do warn you, it may crack the camera. I'm just being fair.
If you had a picture with Jim, see if Jim smiled in your photo as well. That's probably a big... doesn't like smelling for him. All right, guys, if you want a question for Jim, please feel free to come up. If not, what we'll do, Jim, is we'll get you to do a joke first. So Jim always does a joke every one of these, so we have a encyclopedia of jokes in Jim's head. So,
okay, all right. This is about a husband who's talking with his wife, and the wife says, "Look, I just want to know, if I ever died, my health is good, but if I ever died, would you marry again?" And the husband says, "Yeah, well, look, I suppose, after a fair time, maybe in consideration, I guess eventually I probably would marry again." She said, "All right, okay. Well, if you did, would you live in the same house?" And he said, "Well, no, it's a pretty good house we live in. It's very nice, it's well situated, good public transport, and very sound, and, I guess we would live in the same house." She said, "Well, would you let her drive my car?" He said, "Yeah, well, it's a good car. It's a fairly new model, and it really drives well. It's very safe. And I don't see why. Yeah, I would let her use your car. She said, well, would you sleep in our bed? And he said, well, I guess so, because it's a good bed. It really is. It's very solid. It's well made, and I guess we would. Would you let her use my golf clubs? Oh, no, I wouldn't do that. Why not? Well, she's left-handed.
There you go, any golf. It's not too bad. So what we'll do, Jim, is we'll get you to pick 3 questions. So everyone who asked a question, thank you very much. We had 10 people who did it. We'll let Jim pick the top 3 to come and pick whatever they want. Then at the end, we'll come see me and we'll sort out the rest at the front.
I love that question about management style. It was a very clever question.
Management style was it Dasa or Dasha? So do you want to come up and pick anything you like? You get first choice.
Is it one book?
Yes, one book, yeah.
You wouldn't want 3. They're all the same.
I thought it might have been like, Harry Potter.
No, it's not like
trilogy or something. This is quite fun.
That's good choice. Good choice.
If you've got kids, it's good. They'll love it. It's a great game. You'll never play stand 'em up again. It's too boring. That's the best.
That's right. Next one.
I like the one from Adam about advice going back. Nobody's ever asked that one before. Who said that?
Adam.
Where's
Adam? About going back in time to give himself advice. Yep, this man here. Cool. Grab anything you like. Yep. And do you want Jim to sign it? Might be worth something one day if it does come off.
I think it's the first book I've ever had signed. So.
There you go.
Well, I'll tell you what, Adam, if biohistory ever works out, that book could be worth a fortune. Personally signed by Jim. There we are.
We're going to pick one more, Jim, then I'll do the rest at the end. What about the children one? The lady who asked you about the children, which you went on to.
Yeah, Sarah about the children, that was good.
There's Sarah.
Sarah
about the children?
I love questions about this. Is a lady with 3 children of her own too. Very good priorities.
So pick anything you like.
No, that's great. Thank you.
John, Jim to sign it? Yeah.
Thank you.
And
everyone else who asked a question up there, please come see me at the end as well. I've got some I'll get some rest of these prizes here for you as well.
Yeah, Sarah.
So thank you very much for your attention, guys. We do this every 3 to 4 weeks. Franchisees jump on, and please come on and say good day to us. We do have a podcast as well. All those jokes and stuff is on our TikTok account. So if you want to see Jim dressing up as other divisions, I highly recommend going in as well, or Instagram as well. So thank you very much for your attention, guys. Good luck with the rest of your training experience, and we'll see you later in the week. Thank you.